This will be lesson number 11 on how to read my new Gabriel Music Notation system, which is far, far easier to learn than traditional notation. If any of you have taken the piano, and some of you have, you know that the most popular scales are number 1, C major, and then maybe F or G, maybe with 1 or 2 sharps or flats, but that's about it. All popular music, well, 95% are written in those keys. Not because those keys sound any better than other keys, and not because they're easier to play, because actually they are more difficult to play. The only reason you don't find keys in 4, 5, and 6 sharps and flats is because they are more difficult to read. That's the only reason. But with Gabriel notation, all keys are easy. They are all equally easy to read. And in this program, we're going to look at E major and F major. Now, if you look at, this is F major with 1 flat, and this is E major with 4 sharps. The keys themselves, the notes themselves look very similar because they are. They are basically the C major scale. They are the white keys of the piano. They are the same in both scales. You have to remember to look at the key signature, and you have to remember that in one case 4 of the keys are incorrect. You have to play the sharp, the black key just above the note, and with F major there is 1 flat. Now let's take a look at those same two scales in Gabriel notation, and you'll see you can tell right away which key has 4 sharps and which key has 1 flat, because they are the black keys. Each note has its own unique, distinctive note and staff conjunction, and you only have to learn 12 of those, and they are analogous from one clef to another. So let's take a look at these two scales and how to play them. Let's take a look at the E major scale in both traditional notation and in Gabriel notation. And as usual, the scale is printed with all white keys. In other words, the C major scale. And of course, if you need to play sharps or flats, in this case 4 sharps, you must modify 4 of these particular keys. In other words, you don't play F, you have to play F sharp. You don't play G, which is shown, you play G sharp. And the same with C and D. And notice also that the E is the bottom line in the treble clef, but it is the line below the clef in the bass clef. And it is the top space when you go an octave higher in the treble clef, and it is the space 1 down from the top in the bass clef. And of course, in Gabriel notation, you don't have to worry about any key signatures. The notes themselves tell you whether they are black keys or white keys. It's obvious just by taking a quick glance at the scales, which are black keys and which are white keys. And notice also, in both the treble and the bass clef, the positions of the notes stay the same. In other words, E is the space below the 2 lines which are closer together, both in the treble clef and in the bass clef. So now let's take a look at the fingering for the E major scale, and we'll play it. Starting with E, of course. First finger, second, third, thumb under, first, second, third, fourth, fifth. And of course, coming down, it is just the reverse. Third finger over. Now in the bass clef, starting with E below, actually 2 E's below middle D. This is middle D. And we start with the pinky, the 5th finger. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Third finger over. 3, 2, 1. And the reverse going back. 1, 2, 3. Thumb under. 1, Now let's look at the next scale up. We are doing these in ascending order. We've already looked at starting with A, B, C, and D scales, plus the black keys scales in between. And now we are up to the F major scale. And again, I will put the traditional notation on the left and the F major scale on the right. F major scale is very popular because there is only one flat in the key signature. It's fairly easy to remember. This is one of the first scales which are introduced to the student. And as you can see in Gabriel notation, that black key is the B flat key. So let's go through and of course, the same problems we have. In other words, the clefs are not analogous. The F is at the lowest space in the treble clef. It's the space below in the bass clef. And the upper F is the top line in the treble clef, and it's the line below the top line in the bass clef. So let's take a look at the fingering for the F major scale in Gabriel notation, starting, of course, with F and the thumb. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then thumb under. That's quite a jump. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ending on F, the octave note, and coming back just the reverse. 4, 3, 2, 1. Fourth finger over. 4, 3, 2, 1. And in the bass clef, starting with F, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Third finger over. 3, 2, 1. And the reverse. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that concludes lesson number 11 in my series on how to read Gabriel Music Notation. And I hope you are following these lessons. They are beginners lessons, and that's the way I planned it. I'm sure many of you know how to play the piano already. It would be worth your while to learn this new system, because eventually the entire planet will read music with Gabriel Music Notation. It is much simpler, much easier to learn.